What does Proverbs 17 tell us about family? As I was reading through the passage this morning, a couple of things really jumped out at me. And so let's get into what the Lord feels about family, what he thinks about generations, and why it should be important to you. We're going to get started with chapter 17, verse 1. In the book of Proverbs, we have made it past the halfway point. We are now on the home stretch to continue to glean wisdom from King Solomon, who got it from the Lord, who wrote it for us in this book of Proverbs so that we could use it to adopt and have good success in our life. Verse 1. Better is a dry morsel with quietness than a house full of feasting with strife. A wise servant will rule over a son who causes shame and will share an inheritance amongst the brothers. The refining pot is for silver and the furnace for gold, but the Lord tests the hearts. An evildoer gives heed to false lips. A liar listens eagerly to a spiteful tongue. He who mocks the poor reproaches his maker. He who is glad at calamity will not go unpunished. Verse 6, children's children are the crown of old men, and the glory of children is their father. Excellent speech is not becoming to a fool, much less lying lips to a prince. A present is a precious stone in the eyes of its possessor. Wherever he turns, he prospers. He who covers a transgression seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates friends. Rebuke is more effective for a wise man than 100 blows to a fool. An evil man seeks only rebellion, therefore a cruel messenger will be sent against him. Let a man meet a bear robbed of her cubs rather than a fool in his folly. Whoever rewards evil for good, evil will not depart from his house. The beginning of strife is like releasing water, therefore stop contention before a quarrel starts. Verse 15, he who justifies the wicked and he who contemns the just, both of them alike are an abomination to the Lord. There's that word again, abomination. Verse 16, why is there in the hand of a fool the purchase price of wisdom, since he has no heart for it? A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. A man devoid of understanding shakes hands in a pledge and becomes surety for his friend. He who loves transgression loves strife, and he who exalts his gate seeks destruction. He who has a deceitful heart finds no good, and he who has a perverse tongue falls into evil. Verse 21, he who begets a scoffer does so to his sorrow, and the father of a fool has no joy. A merry heart does good, like medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones. A wicked man accepts a bribe behind the back to pervert the ways of justice. And wisdom is in the sight of him who has understanding, but the eyes of a fool are the ends of the earth. A foolish son is a grief to his father, and bitterness to her who bore him. Also, to punish the righteous is not good, nor to strike princes for their uprightness. Verse 27, he who has knowledge spares his words, and a man of understanding is of a calm spirit. Even a fool is counted wise when he holds his peace. When he shuts his lips, he is considered perceptive. And that is the end of chapter 17. Each one of these verses packs a tremendous bite. A couple of those that I noted. Verse 10: rebuke is more effective for a wise man than 100 blows on a fool. Now, I don't like getting hit. I used to get spanked as a kid, and that was never something that was fun. And that has planted some seeds in our mind about the pain of getting hit or tripping and falling or somebody running into you by accident. Those things don't feel good. But the fact that a fool could be hit 100 times and it doesn't mean as much as a rebuke to a wise man. So a rebuke is an open dialogue, an open conviction, an open I want to say rebuke, but you shouldn't use the word in the same sentence. An open response, I'm losing the word at the moment, but it is pointing out what someone has done wrong and saying it to them. So if you are wise, it only takes, the rebuke, the conversation, the rebuttal from somebody that's important, somebody that has wisdom, to be able to cause you to take heed. It doesn't take 100 times being hit or 100 times hitting the wall before you recognize that that's not the direction that you should go. And we should be like that wise person, where it just takes that one line. Maybe it's one word or one message that you heard from a podcast recently, or something somebody from your small group Bible study mentioned. Maybe it's just one passage in here in Proverbs that really rebukes you, that corrects you, that causes you to pause and want to take note. A couple other ones that I thought were pretty interesting. A man devoid of understanding shakes hands in a pledge and becomes surety for his friend. I believe that in chapter 1 or chapter 2, we heard about that surety and not taking on the responsibility or co-signing or taking on the debt of someone else. And it actually tells you to run and rid yourself of that arrangement, like a gazelle running from a hunter. And so it's really interesting that we have to be careful who we get into bed with, for lack of a better way to say that. Who are we shaking hands with? Who are we coming into agreement with? Those things may not always be good, so we need to be careful about that. But what did strike me in reading through the passage was there were several messages or several individual scriptures specifically about the relationship, the familial relationship between people. We have verse 6 that says, children's children are the crown of an old man, and the glory of children is their father. So grandchildren are the crown of an old man. I'm sure any of you have watched grandparents and their grandchildren. I know I remember when my daughter was little, my mom would just let her get away with stuff. I'm like, who are you, lady? You are not the same person that used to get on top of me or correct me when I would do some of the things that she would do. And I think there's something about the love of a grandparent for their grandchild that is quite different. It's a different type of love. But in this passage, it said it is a crown. Again, we talked about a crown the other day. It's what you put on your head. It's what you showcase. It's what you're proud of. So grandchildren are something for grandparents to be proud of. But a child's glory, what they glorify, what they edify, is their father. And so it's really interesting to hear about that. And it also makes you think about many of the families that are out here right now. There are many families or many children that are growing up without a father. And so they don't have that person to glorify. They don't have that person to look up to. They don't have that person in their life to speak life over them and into them. And many of them are not growing up with their grandparents. And so it's interesting, my generation and older, we may have had more experiences with dads in the home and being able to spend time with grandparents and to see what that looks like. These generations that are coming up, their experience is a little bit different, but it's just something that I noted in reading. The next passage that said something about the familiar relationship is verse 21, he who begets a scoffer does so to his sorrow, and the father of a fool has no joy. So begets means who raised up, who had one after itself. So a person who gives birth to a scoffer. So a scoffer is someone who is against things, who belittles things, who makes fun of, who mocks. It's a mocker. So if you have given birth to a mocker, it does so to your sorrow. So that father in this instance, whose son or daughter is a mocker, it brings sorrow to that father. And the father of a fool has no joy. So that's something for us to take into consideration, because I think a lot of times what we see out in communities now and the way families are being raised, there's this feeling in society that whatever I do, it's all about me, and it doesn't matter. What I do doesn't hurt anybody else. What I do doesn't impact anybody else. It's about me, what I want, and I'm living my best life. But according to just these two lines of scripture, that's not true. That what we do impacts two generations above and a generation beneath or generation above. And so the Lord is very, very generational. When you hear about the God of the Old Testament, you hear of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's three generations that he was impacted, the Lord impacted, that he worked through, he maneuvered through. You hear about David and Solomon, and then you hear about the generations. There are generational curses as well as generational blessings, and so it is not wise for us to think that the things that we do don't impact those around us. They don't impact our parents and our grandparents and our children and our grandchildren. It's just not true. And so we as a society need to be thinking about that. What legacy are we leaving? What legacy are we inheriting? And inviting the Lord into that to redeem those kinds of things. And the other passage was verse 25, when it says, a foolish son is a grief to his father and bitterness to her who bore him. The same concept. When you are outside of the will of the Lord, when you are far away, when you were acting up in the street or you were causing problems at school, it created angst in the whole family. And we need to be thinking about that. So are we sowing angst into our family? Are we sowing despair? Are we sowing sorrow into our families? Are we sowing grief into our family by our behavior, by our actions, or maybe our inaction? Or are we sowing into them glory? And are we sowing crowns into our family? Are we sowing prosperity? Are we sowing joy into our family? And so that's one of the things that really stood out to me. Just like there are rules, and Proverbs is all about comparison. If you do this thing that's good, then here are the rewards for that. If you do this thing that's bad, there are rewards for that too, or rather consequences. And so by highlighting in these passages the consequences of ill behavior, the equal and opposite is true, right? If we do the opposite of these things, if we are wise, if we are thoughtful, if we are walking in our understanding, if we are a blessing to those we can be, if we are a blessing, it blesses other people. And I'll round this out with verse 2, which talks about this same issue where there's division, when there's a rift in families, it changes the dynamic. So in verse 2, it says, a wise servant will rule over a son who causes shame and will share an inheritance among the brothers. So a servant is someone that's an outsider. A servant is somebody that just comes, that's a foreigner, somebody that comes to work for the family in this particular instance, somebody who is a hired hand, that's not part of the bloodline, that's not part of the family, that isn't on the inside. But because the son is out of place, because the son has brought shame to the family, it opens up the opportunity for an outsider to come in and take your place. And that speaks, on a natural level as well as a spiritual level. We need to make sure that we're paying attention to the seed that we are sowing. If we are causing shame in our Father's house, if we're causing shame to those that the Lord has planted us around, He has another way to get his purposes accomplished. And if that means another servant comes in to take the place of the son, that's what the Lord will do. And this is natural as well. So if you have a family business and the children, are not following suit, if they have taken on other things that they want to do in their life, if they have caused shame, if they are not living up to the standard that the Father has set, someone else will come in and take the place. So anyway, I just thought that was really interesting. Those handful of scriptures that talks about the relations that are within family, the family dynamics, the impact of poor behavior, poor decisions, poor thinking, and how it impacts generations above and generations below. And it really is a reminder that what we do matters. How we are matters, whether or not we are having children and the way that we raise them, People don't become the people they are without influences that have been around them. I am not the person that I am now if it hadn't been for the influence of my parents and my grandparents and my aunts and uncles and those that I was around. And unfortunately, on the flip side, there are people who maybe have made lots of poor decisions, have not always done the right thing, but they were also influenced by what they were exposed to growing up too. So we are interconnected. God believes in family. He believes in connection. He's a multi-generational God. We are called the sons of God. We are heirs to the kingdom. And so family is really important to the Lord. And so I would encourage you, as we're going through more of these chapters, that we're looking for those threads. What is the Lord saying about family? How should I be? This might even be an invitation for you to think about, how have I treated my family? What are some things that I have done that have brought them shame or have brought them joy? And there's an opportunity to repent and to get back in right standing, not only with the Lord, but with your family. And so that you can live a legacy of good things and not bad things. So thank you so much for joining today. I'm looking forward to digging into chapter 18 tomorrow. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, or share. Please leave a comment. What are some of your thoughts about these couple of passages that I shared or stumbled upon, because today was a little bit off. But any other of the scriptures that came to mind that were really impactful for you, would love to hear it, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow for day 18. Have a good night.